this question, we're going to take a look at how could we find the height of a pole if we're given these diagrams and this information in the question basically. So it says two vertical poles A and B, each of height h, are standing on opposite sides of a level road. So the fact that they're standing vertically and they're on a level road, we know straight away that this here, the angle that we have to the ground is 90 degrees because it's vertically upright, and we also know that it's on a level road. They are 24 meters apart. The point P on the road directly between the two poles is a distance x from pole A. The angle of elevation from P to the top of the pole A is 60 degrees. They want us first to show that h is equal to x multiplied by tan of 60. So how are we going to do that? Well, this is a triangle. It's a right angle triangle and it involves an angle. If it involves an angle, then what we're talking about is SOHCAHTOA. Which trig ratio am I going to use? Sine, cos, or tan? Well, the question gives you a big clue. You're going to use tan. And why you're going to use tan is because you're going to involve this side, which we would give the label opposite. And you're going to use this side, which we would give the label adjacent. So I'm going to start by writing out tan of the angle is equal to opposite all over adjacent. But we can be more specific. We actually know that the angle is 60. And I write that in. Tan of 60 is equal to opposite, which we actually do know. We know that the opposite here is h. So instead of opposite, I'm now going to write h. And instead of adjacent, I can write in what I actually know it to be, which is x. So here I'm going to write x. Now what I need to do is to rearrange this so that I get h on its own. How do I get rid of the other thing that's attached to the h? Well, that x is dividing into h. How do I get rid of divide? The opposite of divide is multiply. So I'm going to multiply up and I get x multiplied by tan of 60 is equal to h. And look, isn't that what they asked us to show? So x multiplied by tan of 60, and I can put brackets around it to show that it's multiplied. So that's the first part done. Now it says find a second expression for h in terms of x. So the other expression is probably going to come from the other triangle. Now what I know is that the full distance here is 24. That other triangle doesn't have a side length 24. It has a side length of 24. Take away what I've already used up to here, which is x. So this side length is actually 24 minus x. And the question now is exactly the same as it was before. Exactly the same. I have to get h in terms of x. So this side is opposite to the angle that I'm going to use, which is 30. So that's opposite. This side is next to the angle 30. And it's not the hypotenuse, because you could technically say this is also next to the angle 30. The catch is this side is opposite to the right angle, so that would be the hypotenuse. This side here must be the adjacent. So what trig ratio deals with opposite and adjacent? Well, that's going to be tan. So once again, I'm going to start out by writing that tan of the angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. But instead of writing just a generic tan of an angle, I actually know that the angle is 30. So I'm going to do tan of 30 is equal to opposite, which is actually h, all over adjacent, which is 24 minus x. Well, I want to get h on its own. It said find an expression for h. So that means get h equals everything else. I want to get rid of that 24 minus x. What is that 24 minus x doing to that h? It's dividing. How do I get rid of divide? I do the opposite to both sides, which is multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 24 minus x. And all of a sudden I get this. Because it'll drop out on this side when I multiply by 24 minus x. I'll have multiply and divide, so it drops out. Now, that's another equation for h. It says hence find h. So I've got a second expression for h, right? So this is what the expression is, but the other one I also have is also for h. And if they both refer to the exact same h, because both of the poles are the same height, doesn't that mean that mathematically 24 minus x multiplied by tan of 30, doesn't that mean that that is equal to the other one, which is x times tan of 60? So have a think about that. Pause the video if you need to, but they are equal to each other, and I can say that because they are both referring to the same height. Now it's an equation and I just need to get x on its own. So I'm going to do a little bit of algebra. I'm going to say this is a bracket multiplied by a number, which is tan of 30. So 24 times tan of 30, I'm just going to leave it like this for a second. And then I'm going to have minus x times tan of 30. Well, if I want to figure out what x is, I need to start rearranging this so that I get x to one side. If I do that, I'm going to add x to both sides here, and I get x tan of 60 plus x tan of 30. So I'm adding x tan of 30 to both sides so that it gets rid of it from this side. That leaves me with 24 tan of 30. I'm now actually going to work out what tan of 60 is, because that has to be a number. So I put into my calculator tan of 60. Now, not very nice, but it works out to be the square root of 3, and that square root of 3 is multiplied by x. For the other one, I'm going to have x multiplied by tan of 30. If I put in tan of 30 into my calculator, I get root 3 all over 3, and that all is multiplied by x. So that tan of 30 became this. The other tan of 60 became this. All I did was put into my calculator what that was. On this side, I can work it out as well. I can do 24 multiplied by tan of 30. That altogether, this guy becomes 8 multiplied by root 3. Okay, so now we're dealing with numbers that don't look so nice, and they're called surds. But they work the same as any other number. They add and subtract, they divide, multiply. They look a bit strange, but the rules that govern them are still the same. So first things first, I'm going to try and add these two together. So if it was 1x and 2x, I know it goes to 3x. But if it's root 3 x's and root 3 over 3 x's, what does that become? Well, I'm going to actually make life easy for myself. I could play around with the fractions, and I can show you how to do that in a moment. But for now, I'm going to tell you that all of that crunches down to give us something quite nice. Or well, depends what you like. I think that's quite neat. 4 root 3 all over 3x. And that's going to be equal to 8 root 3. Now, that's doing what to x? I need to ask myself that. What is that doing to the x? Well, he's multiplying. That's what he's doing. So how do I get rid of multiply? I'm going to divide. And I'm going to keep it in my calculator. Make life easy. I'm going to say 8 root 3 divided by answer. And it gives me something really nice. And that's that x is equal to 6. So what I did there was I divided both sides. I divided 8 root 3 divided by this. And it gave me 6. So that's it. If you would like to do it without using a calculator, so for anybody that's curious, how would I have done it without a calculator? So let's take it from this step. What I'm actually going to do here is there's lots of different ways. What I might do for myself is, either way, I'm going to have to get the common denominator to make these two add together. So the common denominator is going to be 3. Currently this is all over 1. If I want to make it all over 3, I would have to multiply the bottom by 3. But to keep the fraction having the same value, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the top. So I get 3 root 3 x plus root 3 over 3 x. And then that's equal to 8 root 3. Now, they've got the same denominator, so I know that they're going to add together. But what I have is 3 root 3's, and I have 1 of the root 3's. So 3 root 3 and 1 root 3 is 4 root 3's. and it's 4 root 3's and they're both x's. So it's going to be 4 root 3x. And then the other thing I know is that it's equal to 8 root 3 on the left. Now I'm going to work through it. I'm going to multiply up by 3, or what we like to say is if it's dividing, how do I undo it? I'm going to multiply, and the rule is I have to multiply both sides. So I'm going to multiply this side by 3 and this side by 3, and I get 24 root 3 is equal to 4 root 3x. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to say divide both sides by 4, and that leaves me with 6 root 3 is equal to root 3x. To get rid of multiply by root 3, what are you going to do? You're going to undo it by doing the exact opposite. Multiply by root 3, opposite, divide by root 3. And if you divide 6 times root 3 divided by root 3, you're just left with 6. So that would be the calculator-free method of kind of finishing that off at the end using your surds. But if you're not quite confident on those yet, then you can just put it into your calculator. But I would recommend that you get comfortable with surds because you'll see a lot more of them as the course goes on.